Always remember to double check that your weapon is not loaded and there's not a round in the chamber whenever you're working on a firearm. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today I'm going to go over this AR-15 again. I did a video not too long ago, and the more I watch the video, the more I realize that I'm just not liking it. So I figured I'd try it from a different angle and see if this works out a little better. So let's go ahead and start with taking apart the upper and the lower receiver, which is just these two pins right here. You push these through, flip your firearm over, and you should be able to grab these pins and pull them out. And once you do have them removed, the two will separate fairly easy. We're going to go ahead and start with the trigger assembly right here. You always want to remember that this hammer is under tension. So when you pull the pins for this hammer, you need to be sure to press down on it pretty hard so it doesn't go flying across the room, and then you have parts everywhere and it's just a bad day. So let's see if we can do this. These pins normally, after you've done this quite a few times, they'll come out somewhat easy, but just remember they are under tension. So you need to be careful about that. More often than not, you can just push them through, though it does take a little bit of oomph. And once you get it through, you can maneuver the other side and wiggle it around so that pin comes out. There, see? This is in fact under tension, so be very, very careful. And there you go. These two pieces should just fall out. There's your trigger assembly right there. A couple things to take note of. Make sure that these bars are always pointed towards the front of the firearm, and don't forget to double check that that spring is in place. This unit here goes into that groove right there, like so, with the hook always facing forward and the flat bar above your hammer spring. This part is always a little tricky for some people. What needs to happen when it's inside your receiver is it needs to rest on these bars, like so. And your closed end goes towards the front of the firearm. So your hammer operates essentially like this. And when you're putting these back together, you want to make sure that this bar is underneath this bar here. If it's above it, your firearm will not operate correctly. Like so. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to push this down and line up your holes like so before you can get your pin in. And once you get it started, You can hammer it the rest of the way down. Look on the other side, line up your pin, and push it through. And there you go, your trigger is in place. All right, now let's get this hammer put in. So this hammer needs to rest on top of these pins going across the trigger. And your bar needs to rest against it, like so. There's going to be a lot of tension on this when you put it in, so you're going to have to maneuver it into position in order to get your pin through the hole and on the receiver. Might take you a couple tries in order to get that the first, second time, whatever. But once you get it in, you can maneuver the pin till it lines up just by grabbing this and finish pushing it through. You want to make sure that these are flat too. And I wouldn't worry about them coming out, to be honest, because there's a lot of tension holding these two into place once you get that hammer in. Okay, let's go ahead and break down the receiver. And we'll go over a couple of things that need to be cared for and maintained on a regular basis. In order to take this apart, the first thing you need to do is to remove this pin right here, which pulls right out. And that will release your firing pin. At that point, you push your receiver forward and it will allow you access to this piece right here. And what that piece does is hold your firing pin in place so that it doesn't bounce around inside your firearm. When you have your firing pin out, you should just be able to turn it like so and then pull it out. And this comes right out. How do? On this piece, there are a couple of items that you need to take note of. Number one, your ring right here. This is important. This helps create pressure in your gas tube, as well as this unit right here. In order to get this piece off right here, there's a pin. It needs to be taken out. And you'll need to apply just a little bit of pressure to this, because underneath here there's a spring pushing it up. So you push that down just a little bit and your pin should just come right out. And then this will come off. Now this doesn't need to be cleaned every time you fire your rifle, but it's a good idea to do it a couple of times a year. There's a lot of gunk gets built up in here. You get too much gunk and your gas operation will not work correctly. One thing to take note of, there is an O-ring inside of this unit. Do not lose that, otherwise you won't build up as much pressure as your rifle would normally and you might not cycle properly. So keep a close eye on that little booger. Once you have this all cleaned up, it goes together exactly the same way you took it apart. And same concept, you need to apply just a little bit of pressure right here in order to line your hole up so your pin will go through. When you're putting this assembly back together, there are a couple of things to take note of. Number one, your firing pin goes inside this when it's inside your carrier. It's going to look something like that once it's inside. Also, this only goes in to your carrier one way. So it goes in just fine that way. But if you put this piece in backwards, this will not go in to that hole. Something to take note of. When putting this back together, you're going to want to put this piece in first, then turn it back to its original position by going clockwise. If you recall, you had to go counterclockwise in order to get it out. Now it should be lined up on the inside for your firing pin to go into place. Like so. And your pin goes back in there. Pull this out, and your carrier is reassembled. Getting it back in, however, is a little bit of a trick to it. You need to be in this position where this firing pin carrier is underneath your tube. The reason for that is because it will not fit through these grooves if it is off to the side. And hopefully that explains it a little bit. In order to put all this back together, it's the same exact thing as when you took it apart. You move your pins out of the way, line up your holes, and then on the other side of the rifle, you push your pins through. And that is a tear down all the way down to the trigger, the AR-15 model rifle. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.